Okay, you guys, thank you for some brilliant conversations out there. And before we get into our next, louder, Katie. Before we get into our next part of the program, and that's why Ingrid and Crystal are offers these post-growth institute are moving tables in, because they're going to help us find resources amongst ourselves and others for actions. But we really, really want to hear from all the action groups before we do that. And Wanda's going to be filming whoever is going to speak for the group. So I guess we'll just start at the top. And we'll have a report from Wendell and whoever else joined, Tracy, Chris Hall, funding, legislation, water rights, and water law. A huge topic. I'm sure you figure all out. I'm very excited to hear. So, where is Wendell? Wendell and whoever else maybe wants to chime in.
Well, Tracy took the notes, and
Okay.
So she went.
She's the scribe.
She's the scribe.
Wonderful, Tracy. You've got the floor.
Hi everyone, I'm Tracy. I am also working with Water League, and we were in groups 1 and 6, so we combined the two together. So we had a long discussion kind of about the state of our society and our economy and all the injustice and exploitation and, like, you know, the extremely wealthy minority, and how are we gonna get some of that money back into the community. And we talked about stopping the subsidization of water for the biggest users, which are ag, charging those large users of water for that water, because right now it's practically nothing for them to just use. We talked about incentivizing water conservation. Mostly our conversation was kind of this big, lofty idea of how it's kind of screwed up our society is, which is it can be kind of hard to figure out how to address. But one starting place could be to actually charge the cost of what the water actually is worth instead of outsourcing that onto the community.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, we're wanting to have the scribes, if they can, take a picture of their report, both sides, and email it to Lorraine, so we'll be able to kind of download that and, you know, take notes. And if you could part with your copy, I'd be glad to have the hard copy, so have something to refer back to. That doesn't work. So, we didn't really have anybody on incentives of businesses and.
Yeah, I can.
Oh, that's right, we did add that. So did we add number 2?
To number 7.
With number 7,
So
okay.
it would be appropriate for it to be reported on in number 7.
Okay.
What's that?
Great.
Okay.
It's a subsidiary.
We'll get to number 7 then.
Okay, who was the scribe, or who's gonna report for rights of nature and indigenous practices?
Who's the scribe? Lorraine?
Okay, so we'll start by saying our primary reason we went into that circle to begin with was rights of nature. For most of us, I think maybe everybody, was rights of nature and honoring an indigenous perspective. And I would just say, we had a beautiful conversation. And it was all about how do we communicate the idea of loving water, of honoring water. How do we inspire that? How do we share that? And I commented that in doing this water work over these months, it has really seemed like water led us and taught us what we needed to know next, or kind of we just moved and then, oh, there was support for that. And we've had a lot of, I would say, significant feedback that people appreciated that we started with a blessing and ended with a gratitude that somehow water was teaching all of us at the same time. Now, how you share that with other people? And we came up with some ideas.
We certainly did. One of them is for people to find and build their own relationships with water. So how do we facilitate and create and hold space for people to experience being next to water, and then perhaps from hearing water create art, or from seeing water create art or other kinds of expression. And we specifically talked about how important children are in recognizing the joy of water and building the future and being a part of this conversation, and how they have wisdom far beyond their years. And so when we respect them for the empowered beings that they are and honor their wisdom, there's the opportunity to bring forth their voices and their relationship with nature, and then also inspire their parents, their communities, to recognize and honor water as well. And so we were talking about potential classes for children. We were talking about potential ways to hold ceremony in the community, to connect kids with nature. We had a lot of different ideas about how to move forward and how to honor water and honor people's perspectives and bring forward this next understanding and relationship with water in our community.
Thank you.
All right. I guess we're going to hear from the combined group of
And you're part of that, Katie Farrell.
3 and 9.
Yeah, 3 and 9. Here we are.
3 and 9.
So,
Go ahead, Bill.
very spirited. First, we started with a very small group, how to take a kind of wastewater disposal kind of situation industrially and domestically and make it sexy. And I think we actually accomplished that. Soulful and sexy. And primarily was this whole idea, and it's come up several times, of changing our language around this. First of all, waste. You know, I looked it up, or Carrie looked it up. Waste of a material, substance, or byproduct eliminated or discarded as no longer useful or required after the completion of a process. Wow. Well, we all know that by going to the toilet, right? But there's something about those are all these nutrients that belong back in the ground, you know, back into earth, you know, rather than swept away into some sort of waste, whatever, a situation. So we need to start looking at the language and what we're out to create, and reframe it, shift the frame or languaging, and it got into such good stuff. So reinvent the language, the concept of waste. Highly suggested by Dr. Gardner, lovely Christine Gardner, was to read Debt, the First 5,000 Years by David Graeber. You know, we live in a debt slave economy, and we have for a very long time, and we're being told what to do with this, that, and the other thing. And it's important for us to get educated on that score. So we may even take that on as a reading group this winter. Debt
What's
from
the title
beginning.
again?
Excuse me?
What's
Debt, the
Debt.
First 5,000 Years, David Graeber.
Okay.
Lori?
I would just add that David Graeber's newest book, which is The Dawn of Everything, is incredible.
Okay.
And I'm about to start a book group on that.
Okay.
But
Okay. So yes, you know, and I want to just highlight education. You know, we kept referring back to the GMO issue. You know, we needed to educate people. I mean, you needed to educate me. It was like GMO. What's GMO? You know, I mean, and so this idea of, you know, avoiding the polarity of people don't know what this is all about. Of course they don't know what this is all about. We've been living inside of a certain matrix for a long time, and we're purposely not told what this is all about. So education is going to be a really important part of anything that we're up to here today and into the future. Another book, The Ministry for the Future, Kim Stanley Robinson, and Katie will maybe report more on that. I'm going to end my part with Carrie's Be Nice, nice to yourself, nice to others, nice to the plants and animals, nice to the planet. If you're trying to be nice to only one of those without being nice to all of the others, you're not really being nice. So Katie, you want to pick up on your notes for the other
If I
people?
had them, but I can remember some of it. We really had a great time in, oh yeah.
Oh, Katie, they're here.
Oh, good. I lose my head at this point.
Yes.
Seriously. It's been
Yeah,
a lot.
we hit a hot
Then what
topic
would
for
we do?
Katie.
Yes.
I mean, this is
Oh,
like
they're all
Katie
hot
coming
for
to
me,
the
though.
forefront. She liked this one.
This book that I talked about a little bit and is called Ministry for the Future by Kim Stanley Robinson is just, in fact, I just loaned it to Chris, and we may start reading because what he's done, it's being called the best science fiction, nonfiction ever. And he's projecting out on all these climate issues and changes that are happening in 2030, 2040, 2050, so kind of like this bridge time. So in some ways it's very inspiring, in other ways it's very daunting. But it goes a lot, and we in our group went into the banking system and the powers that be and how many obstacles we run into when we try to make change. So that book is it's really amazing. We talked about because we had industrial, domestic, and the affluent or idea of sewer water for outdoor use. We kind of got a little bit into the puritanical ethic of Americans and the aesthetic. Ooh, do we really want that? And how people feel about that. But it's being done successfully and healthfully all over the world. And we talked a lot. Well, Belle talked a lot. She wrote down and even had Carrie look up what is waste, right? And this concept of everything we throw away that's actually rich with lots of things that could be going back into the Earth system. That's really kind of important. So we talked about many things. I was so glad to meet Christine because she's a kind of a tiger like me, and we need to speak out. That I think that I always use the analogy, and Wendell was there. A lot of us here were part of the GMO movement. We educated for 3 years before we got the initiative and the signatures for the ballot. And educating the public, we did lots of rallies. We were out here on the corner, in Medford, people honking, what is GMO? But, that of the initiatives may be something that we eventually might need to do, because just in planning this thing, I can see where the walls are, where the barriers are. And there's a lot of lip service, and there's a lot of engagement actually with the staff, but above the staff is sort of this policy bureaucracy that's really keeping it pretty, and the staff can't necessarily go beyond, speak to anything that's not the party line. So, but we do have a lot of allies, and I really had hoped I would have time today to list all of the people from different agencies. But there's also a lot of jurisdiction issues that may come into the rights or the law, water law. Yeah, I can't wait for that.
Katie, can I just say that congratulations on getting your GMO legislation through, grandfathered in.
Right.
In Josephine County, we were 3 days later, and ours was preempted by state legislation.
Well, yeah, that's what they did, but we were working hand in hand with you on 3 different ballot initiatives. And and that's what the state reaction was, to clamp down on any other county doing that ban. So we have to work smarter now that we are aware. Like, a lot of energy came out of Jackson that got crushed for the rest of the state. But I have to say, the Grange has adopted a resolution to make all of Oregon an agricultural zone. There's still activity there, and Dr. Ray Seidler was one of our key leaders there. And carbon sequestration, that's another thing we talked about. It's just the frustration of not being able to get people higher up, DEQ or whatever all these entities are, to understand that sequestering carbon is the bridge to defeating climate change. It's the 5-year, 10-year thing we can do on the land to improve our soil, hold the water, reduce the carbon And methane is just so much more toxic, but it's not sexy, right? We want to fund these energy or transportation projects and Boys with Their Toys, more money for ODOT, more money here, more money there. We're going to have to really look to change that. So there was a lot of spirit in our group, and, thank you, Bill. Thank you, Carrie. We had a really fun time. Go ahead, Linda.
Can I make an observation and a proposal, as a request for regarding wastewater? There's something to do about it. I don't know if anybody's in the men's room noticed that somebody's been peeing in there and not flushing. So I suggest, back in the 70s, I learned if it's yellow, let it mellow, right?
Right.
Are we in another kind of a situation where it would be a good idea to hear that and adopt the practice? Don't flush if all you're going to do is pee in the toilet. You say, I say 4 or 5 gallons. Well, how much of that every day by not doing that?
Right.
So, and what an enormous amount of waste.
Yeah.
Just to-
Totally hear you, Wendell.
Right.
We have 5 more minutes, folks, for all the reports.
Oh, geez.
5 more minutes until our break time is over, actually. The Offers and Needs Market starts in 5 minutes.
Okay, well, I really think we need to hear from water rights and water law, right?
We were in,
Oh, wetlands.
Oh, then we heard, okay.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Wetlands.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I was, my name is Frances So Young. I work for Rogue River Keeper, and I was in a group with 5 of us, and we were talking about wetlands and waterways, and some of the things we talked about was the need to implement, improve, and integrate our developed lives with natural systems. Looking for opportunities to do so in places like stormwater management, restoring watershed and ecological health in multiple ways. There was conversations about who in our region and state are doing this already, and there are many organizations at many different levels. Rogue River Keeper is one, but there's lots who participated in the Water Summit. One of the big needs is assessment for where and what should be done to have the highest impact. Assessment usually costs money. Things like protection of wetlands, increasing their functionality was seen as a priority for folks. Riparian buffers, maintaining and protecting those. Looking at successful models that have happened in a lot of these areas, learning from what has worked before in other places. In terms of the assessment, mapping, things like riparian areas, and looking at increasing mitigation projects, which is also connected to regulation to implement some of these activities. The importance of having individuals engaged and a champion in particular for certain types of work, and discussions on how individuals can have impact. A lot of times it's where we are, our own homes, our own properties, our own communities, looking there first, because there we can actually feel like we're doing something, and if not a project in your own, adopting a project somewhere else. Anything else to add?
Ponds to wetlands.
Moving ponds to wetlands, so increasing the use of wetlands.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Francis.
Did we have somebody for session 4?
Session 4, agriculture.
So I'm the scribe. I didn't want to be the reporter because I don't want to be videotaped.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't
You
realize I
don't
was
need
going
to be
both.
recorded.
So somebody else in my group wants to do the reading. No.
Or
We
do
don't
we
have
just
not be
film it?
videotaped.
It's off.
It's off. Perfect.
It's off for you, Alex.
So we talked about ways to. So first of all, education is the key to this whole thing. Like we have to make people aware of these situations, and because when we're talking about agriculture, we're really talking about the big ag, not the small farms. So we have get qualified people elected to positions. Because apparently there's nobody was on the ballot for soil and water.
Zone 1.
So that information is like, there's nobody there. So, get more people involved and make a coalition holistic. All the local groups that we have in here, water keepers and water watches and just advocates for stewardship, maybe get them pulled together more. Put out resources for landowners, because there's a lot of resources out there that people are not aware of, that will help with resource, like money, get money and workers to come in and help you with stuff. And then just things like no-till farming, create swales and ponds, keep the duff, carbon sequestration, using biochar, permaculture, and cover crops, just to help with the water efficiency and quality problem.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're gonna go to number 6, right? Water rights, and you combine with,
No, they combined.
they already did.
They were combined.
I think you're down to 8.
Dorothy
Number
Slaney.
8.
Number 8.
Oh, I think our Officer Needs person wants to say something.
Oh no, it's for number 8.
Oh,
This is
you're
number
right.
8.
On behalf of
First, number 8.
We're getting anxious.
Yes, so just very briefly, we had a lively conversation about diverse stakeholders, building bridges, creating understanding. We really felt like a common theme was building understanding, finding common ground, that we could do that through education, as well as how to deepen and expand collaborative working relationships and also map what's already existing, where maybe there needs to be more conversation or connection, how to have our invitations be really inclusive and clear, like why are we inviting you to this meeting, collaboration, and then also working on how to give guidance or facilitate conversations that can hold some of these tensions between groups. So we felt like emotional intelligence on the individual level was very important, as well as group process and being able to create conversations that move things forward and bridge differences and build understanding. That's my summary.
Yay, thank you.
So is everybody recorded now?
I think
All
so.
the groups? Okay, we'll give one more reminder. If the scribe or somebody from the group could take a picture of that and email it to Lorraine, and maybe turn in your notes if you don't mind parting them down
Yeah.
to me or Lorraine, so we can make a full report. And I know it's a short time to report so much intense and amazing conversation.